You know that moment when your whole world shifts, but everyone around you just keeps smiling like nothing happened?
Yeah.
That was me, standing in our kitchen on a Tuesday night, listening to my mom tell me I wasn't going to Hawaii. We just can't afford to take two, Catherine. The prices went up, everything's already booked. Your sister is going. You'll understand. She said it the way she always did, calm, final, already expecting my agreement. My dad nodded beside her, eyes fixed on the granite countertop like this conversation was a formality, not a knife to the chest. My sister Vanessa sat on the couch scrolling through photos of Waikiki Beach and designer swimsuits, already halfway to the islands in her mind. I did understand. That was the entire problem. I'd been understanding my entire life. I was 26 years old, working double shifts at Morrison General Hospital as a nurse, and I'd been the understanding daughter since I could talk. The one who stayed late at work without complaint. The one who paid the Comcast bill when it was just a little behind. The one who bought groceries from Whole Foods without being asked, because I knew nobody else would step up. I was the daughter who didn't get a graduation party because times were tight. But Vanessa got a brand new Mazda for her 16th birthday. I was the one whose birthday dinners got postponed indefinitely, while hers became catered events at the Riverside Grill. I was the one who never needed much, so they figured they could give me even less. So when my mom stood there in the kitchen I'd helped renovate, telling me they couldn't afford to take two daughters to Hawaii, something inside me didn't break loudly. It cracked. Quietly. Like a fault line that had been under pressure for decades, finally giving way. Of course, I said, forcing my best nurse smile, the one I used on difficult patients. I totally understand. The relief on their faces was immediate. Shoulders relaxed. My dad's jaw unclenched. Conversation pivoted seamlessly to packing lists and TSA pre-check, and whether they should rent a convertible Jeep or stick with a standard sedan. They didn't notice I'd stopped listening. They didn't notice my hands had gone cold. They didn't notice that while they were planning a 7-day vacation to paradise, I was planning something else entirely. My exit. A week before their departure, I stood in that same kitchen scrolling through my email inbox. A reminder from Duke Energy about the utility bill, the one in my name that I'd been paying for 3 years. A thank you message from my nurse manager for covering another colleague's shift. The countertop beneath my hands, the marble one I'd paid $4,200 to install, felt like ice. From the living room, my mom's voice drifted in, bright and bubbling with excitement. Ocean view suite. Breakfast buffet included. Vanessa is going to absolutely love this. I leaned against the doorway and just watched them. My mom waving printed boarding passes. My dad half listening to sports radio. Vanessa smiling at her phone, probably texting friends about her upcoming tropical adventure. Nobody looked at me. When my mom finally did glance over, she blinked like she'd genuinely forgotten I was standing there. Oh, Catherine, can you water the plants while we are gone? And maybe check the mailbox every day. That was my role. The dependable one. The one who stayed behind to keep everything running smoothly. But not for much longer. The truth came out a few nights later at dinner, Olive Garden takeout that I'd picked up and paid for, naturally. We really did want to take you both, my mom said, sighing dramatically as she twirled fettuccine around her fork. But we had to make a choice, sweetheart. You understand how expensive flights are right now. I stared at my untouched lasagna. And you chose her. Silence dropped over the table like a weighted blanket. She's younger, my dad said finally, not meeting my eyes. She needs these experiences more. You've already been to the beach before. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so absurdly familiar. I went to Myrtle Beach for a nursing conference, Dad. I spent 3 days in seminars about wound care protocols. That's not exactly a vacation. Still, my mom interjected. Vanessa hasn't had those opportunities. She's only 21. This trip will be good for her. Right. Because Vanessa needed a Hawaiian vacation on top of the European cruise she'd taken last year. On top of the ski trip to Aspen. On top of the Cancun spring break that I'd helped fund by lending Mom $800 that was never paid back. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my bed, the one I'd bought myself because my childhood bed had broken and nobody offered to replace it, and I started making a list in my phone. The things I'd paid for in this house. The things I'd contributed to that had become invisible, expected, absorbed into the family ecosystem like they'd always been there. The 65-inch Samsung TV in the living room? Mine. Receipts saved in my email from Best Buy, $1,400. The sectional sofa they lounged on every evening? Mine. Ashley Furniture, $2,100, financed on my credit card that I'd paid off myself. The KitchenAid mixer my mom bragged about to her book club? Mine. $380, birthday gift to myself that became communal property within a week. The dishes. The coffee maker. The dining room table. The area rug under said table. The microwave. The air fryer. The Dyson vacuum. Mine. 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 I hadn't kept receipts on purpose. I'd just never thrown them away. Years of purchases saved automatically to my Gmail account, archived but accessible. Bank statements going back 5 years, all meticulously stored in my Google Drive because I was, if nothing else, organized. I'd been funding their comfort without even realizing it. Every time something broke or wore out, I was the one who replaced it. Not because they asked, they never asked. Because I saw the need and filled it, like the caretaker I'd been trained to be. And nobody had ever said thank you. Nobody had ever offered to pay me back. Nobody had ever even acknowledged it. By 3 a.m, I had a spreadsheet. 17 items. $12,600 worth of furniture, appliances, and household goods. All purchased by me. All receipts saved. All legally mine. I looked at that number glowing in the darkness of my bedroom. $12,600. That was more than the Hawaii trip cost. Way more. And suddenly, I knew exactly what I was going to do. The morning they left for the airport, I was the perfect daughter one last time. I smiled. I hugged them. I took photos of them with their luggage on the front porch. Have an amazing time, I told Vanessa, and I meant it. Because while they were having the time of their lives in paradise, I was about to have the time of my life here, reclaiming everything they'd taken for granted, including myself. Their Uber pulled away at 4:47 a.m., headed to Charlotte Douglas International Airport. By 5:15 a.m., I was on the phone with Atlas Moving Company. I need a truck and 2 movers, I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. Today, if possible. I'm moving out of a 3-bedroom house, but I'm only taking specific items. I have a detailed list. The dispatcher paused. How soon were you thinking? Noon work for you? By the time the sun fully rose, I'd already walked through the entire house with my phone, photographing every single item on my list. TV with the Best Buy sticker still faintly visible on the back. Sofa with the Ashley Furniture tag I'd purposely never removed. Kitchen table with the tiny scratch from when I'd assembled it myself because Dad was too busy. I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt clear. The movers arrived at 11:52 a.m., 2 guys named Jackson and Lewis who didn't ask questions, just checked my receipts against my list and got to work. You need everything wrapped and protected? Jackson asked, eyeing the TV. Absolutely, I said. I paid good money for all of this. I want it treated carefully. Lewis glanced around the increasingly empty living room. Nobody else home. They're on vacation, I said simply. Hawaii. They'll be gone for a week. Something flickered across his face, understanding, maybe, but he just nodded and kept loading boxes. Piece by piece, the house transformed. The sectional went first, leaving a massive empty space in the living room like a missing tooth. Then the TV, disconnected carefully from the wall mount, which I'd also paid for, so that came too. The coffee table. The end tables. The lamps. The decorative throw pillows my mom loved. In the kitchen, I supervised as they packed up the mixer, the Nespresso machine, the air fryer, the Instant Pot, the knife block, the dish set for 8. I left behind the chipped plates from 1997 and the mismatched mugs. I wanted the contrast to be undeniable. From the dining room, my table, my chairs, my rug. From the hallway, the console table I'd bought at HomeGoods, the mirror above it, the decorative bowl that held keys. My bedroom was already packed. I'd spent the previous 2 nights carefully boxing up my clothes, books, and personal items. Everything I'd accumulated in 26 years, ready to go. What I left behind was deliberate. My dad's recliner, the one he'd had since 2003, worn and sagging. My mom's antique china cabinet that she'd inherited from her mother. Vanessa's room, completely untouched. The washer and dryer, which predated my financial contributions. The beds. The old furniture they'd owned before I started helping. I wasn't stealing. I was reclaiming. By 4:30 p.m., the truck was loaded. I stood in the doorway of the house I'd grown up in, looking at what remained. It looked hollow now. Exposed. Bare walls where pictures had hung on nails I'd hammered in. Empty spaces where comfort used to live. But that comfort had been built on my back. Jackson handed me the final inventory sheet. Where to? I gave him the address of my new apartment, a one-bedroom place in South Park I'd secured 2 weeks ago, after that dinner conversation had made everything crystallize. Lead the way, I said. I took one last look at the house, pulled the door shut, and locked it with the key I'd drop in the mailbox later. I didn't leave a note. They didn't deserve an explanation. They'd understand soon enough. They came back on Sunday evening at 6:43 p.m. I know because that's when my phone started exploding. I was in my new apartment, arranging my sectional against the living room wall, when the first call came in. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, Dad. Ignored. Then Vanessa. Then Mom again. Then the texts started. MOM. Catherine, call me right now. MOM. What happened to the house? Dad, this isn't funny. Call us. Vanessa. What the actual fuck? I turned my phone face down and went back to organizing my kitchen. My mugs in my cabinet. My plates in my cupboard. My coffee maker on my counter. Everything exactly where I wanted it. Finally. The voicemails filled up fast. Catherine Elizabeth Bennett, you pick up this phone right now. Someone broke into the house. Everything is gone. The TV, the couch, everything. We need to call the police. Call me back immediately. I deleted it. Next message. Catherine, your father and I are standing in an empty house. What the hell happened while we were gone? Did you let someone in? Were we robbed? Answer your phone. Delete. Vanessa's message was more panic than words. Katie, oh my God, Mom is freaking out, like completely losing it. Dad's on the phone with the neighbors. They're saying a moving truck was here. Did you see anything? Please call back. Delete. But it was the neighbor's text to me that made me smile. Mrs. Fitzgerald from next door, the 70-year-old retired teacher who'd always been kind to me. Mrs. F. Your mother just knocked on my door asking about Thursday. I told her I saw you supervising movers. She asked if you seemed distressed. I said you seemed quite peaceful actually. Hope you're doing well, dear. I texted back. Thank you for your honesty, Mrs. F. I'm doing great. By 8 p.m., my phone showed 43 missed calls. By 9 p.m., they'd apparently gotten my new address from God knows where, probably my emergency contact forms at the hospital. The buzzer to my apartment rang. I looked at the video intercom screen. All three of them, standing in my building's lobby. My mom's face was blotchy and red. My dad looked like he was about to have a stroke. Vanessa stood slightly behind them, arms crossed, looking confused and uncomfortable. I pressed the button. What do you want? Let us up, Catherine. Now. My mom's voice was shrill through the speaker. No. Catherine Elizabeth Bennett. I said no. You want to talk? We can talk out there. In public. Like civilized people. I grabbed my jacket and took the elevator down. The second the lobby doors opened, my mom lunged forward. There it is. She was pointing through the elevator, as if she could see through walls into my apartment. You took everything. The TV, the furniture, all of it. You robbed us. I stayed calm. Calmer than I'd felt in years, actually. I didn't rob you, I said quietly. I took what was mine. Yours? My dad's face was purple. That was the family's furniture. You can't just. I held up one finger, pulled out my phone, and opened my Google Drive folder. The one labeled receipts, house items. Actually, Dad, I can. Would you like to see the receipts? The yelling stopped. Just like that. My mom's mouth was still open, frozen mid-accusation. Vanessa's eyes went wide. My dad reached for the phone like he could make the evidence disappear if he just grabbed it fast enough. I pulled it back. "We're not doing this here," I said. "My apartment. 5 minutes. No yelling, or you leave." They sat on my sectional, the one they'd lounged on for 2 years without ever once asking who'd paid for it, looking like defendants in a courtroom. I placed the folder on my coffee table. Physical printouts. All 17 receipts, organized chronologically with dates, amounts, and items highlighted in yellow. "This is insane," my mom said, but her voice had lost its sharp edge. "You can't just document everything like this. Families don't work that way." "You're right," I said. "Families don't. But apparently, we do." I opened the folder. Pulled out the first receipt. Samsung 75-inch TV. Purchased August 2022, $1,400. I bought it because the old one died and nobody else was stepping up. It went in the living room. Everyone used it. Nobody said thank you. My dad started to speak. I held up my hand. Ashley Furniture sectional sofa. Purchased October 2022, $2,100. Financed on my visa. Paid off in 6 months. You told me it really tied the room together, Mom. Never once mentioned paying me back. Vanessa shifted uncomfortably. "Katie, we didn't know you were keeping track." I wasn't keeping track. I was just existing. Paying for things. Contributing to a household where apparently I was the only one contributing. I pulled out another receipt. KitchenAid mixer, $380. Nespresso machine, $250. Dining table and chairs, $1,800. Area rug, $340. Dyson vacuum, $480. My mom's face had gone pale. "We would have paid you back if you'd asked." I shouldn't have had to ask. The words came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't regret them. Do you know how insulting it is to be the person who keeps everything running while being treated like an afterthought? Like the spare daughter. Silence. "You couldn't afford to take 2 daughters to Hawaii," I continued, my voice steadier now. "But you could afford to take one. And somehow, it was never me. Just like it was never me for the cruise last year, or the ski trip, or the dozens of other times you had to make a choice." My dad finally found his voice. "You're older. You have a career. Vanessa is still figuring things out." Vanessa is 21 with no job and no bills. I'm 26, working 50-hour weeks, and apparently funding all of your home improvements. I looked at my sister. "When's the last time you paid for anything in that house?" She looked at her lap. "That's what I thought." My mom tried a different approach. "Catherine, honey, if you just talk to us." "I did talk to you. Every time I paid a bill. Every time I bought something we needed. Every time I stayed quiet while Vanessa got the things I never got. I communicated constantly. You just never listened." I stood up, walked to the window. My apartment was small, a 1-bedroom on the 8th floor, but it was mine. Every single thing in it was mine. Paid for by me, chosen by me, arranged by me. "I'm not coming back," I said, turning to face them. "Not to the house. Not to being invisible. Not to watching you choose her over and over while I pay the bills." "You can't keep all of it," my dad said, but he sounded desperate now, not angry. "We need." "Then buy your own," I said simply. "Like adults do. The way I did." My mom started crying. "We're your family." "Then start acting like it." I walked to the door, opened it. "I think we are done here." The fallout was immediate and messy. My mom called 30 times over the next 2 days. I answered once, briefly, to tell her I needed space and would reach out when I was ready. She tried to turn it emotional. "How could you do this to us?" But I ended the call before it could escalate. My dad sent emails. Long ones, about family values and maturity and legal action. I forwarded them to my friend Adrienne, who worked as a paralegal, just to be safe. She read them and laughed. "He's not going to sue you," Catherine. Everything has your name on the receipts. He'd be laughed out of any lawyer's office. Still, I saved everything. Just in case. Vanessa texted sporadically. Apologetic at first, then defensive, then confused. Vanessa, I didn't know you felt this way. Emmy, I told you. Multiple times. You just weren't listening. Vanessa, that's not fair. Emmy, neither was Hawaii. She stopped texting after that. But the neighborhood grapevine was the real entertainment. Mrs. Fitzgerald reported back to me like a war correspondent. Your mother told the book club you had a mental breakdown. Then Patricia Collins, you know, the one with the golden doodle, asked why a mentally unstable person would have receipts organized in a binder. Your mother didn't have an answer for that. I snorted into my coffee. I bet she didn't. And Vanessa tried posting something vague on Instagram about family drama and toxic siblings, but apparently the comments were not in her favor. Someone asked why she got to go to Hawaii if money was so tight. She deleted the whole post within an hour. The truth was, people weren't stupid. Neighbors had watched me come and go for years, early morning shifts, late night returns, grocery bags, furniture deliveries. They'd seen who kept that house running. And they'd seen who got the vacations. 3 weeks after I moved out, my phone rang from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Katie. Vanessa. Crying. I'm sorry, she said, her voice breaking. I'm really, really sorry. You were right. About everything. I sat down slowly on my couch. What happened? Mom asked me to pay the electric bill. Said it was my turn to contribute since you're gone. It was $320. I didn't have it. She laughed bitterly. I realized I've never paid a bill in my life. I didn't even know how. Silence stretched between us. I knew things weren't fair, she continued. I knew they treated you differently. I didn't want to think about it too hard because I was the one benefiting. That's awful, Katie. I was awful. Yeah, I said quietly. You were. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. What they did. What I let happen. I looked around my apartment. My space. My peace. I'm not ready to forgive yet, I told her honestly. But I appreciate you saying it. That matters. Okay. She sniffled. Can I call you sometime? Not to ask for anything. Just to talk. I thought about it. Maybe. Eventually. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time. It wasn't closure. Not yet. But it was something. A crack in the wall I'd built. Not big enough to walk through. But enough to let a little light in. 6 weeks after I moved out, my parents asked to meet. Not at my apartment. Not at their house. At Bennett's Cafe, a neutral coffee shop downtown where we couldn't make a scene. I almost said no. But something Mrs. Fitzgerald said stuck with me. Sometimes people don't change because they want to, dear. They change because they finally have to. So I went. They were already seated when I arrived. A corner booth, 2 lattes untouched on the table. My mom looked smaller somehow. Tired. My dad had circles under his eyes. I slid into the booth across from them and waited. We've been talking, my mom started. A lot. About everything. Okay. We didn't realize how much we'd taken you for granted, my dad said. He sounded genuine, which surprised me. We thought you were just helping. Being generous. I was helping, I said evenly. But helping shouldn't mean being invisible. My mom nodded, tears already forming. You're right. You were always the easy one. The responsible one. We leaned on that. We leaned on you. And we took advantage. I didn't disagree. We want to make things right, she continued. We talked to a family therapist. We can't afford to pay you back all at once, but we want to set up a payment plan. Monthly installments. With interest, if you want. I blinked. That genuinely surprised me. You talked to a therapist. We had to, my dad said. Vanessa refused to talk to us for 2 weeks. The neighbors won't make eye contact. And sitting in that house every night, looking at empty spaces where furniture used to be. He shook his head. It made us face what we'd done. We don't expect you to come back, my mom added quickly. Not to the house. We understand if you don't want that. But we're asking for a chance. To rebuild. Differently this time. I studied them both. They looked genuine. Humbled, even. But I'd learned something important over the past 6 weeks. I don't need your money, I said finally. Keep it. Pay your own bills. My dad frowned. But what I need, I interrupted, is respect. I need you to see me as an equal, not as backup. Not as the dependable one who'll always be there to pick up slack. If you want a relationship with me, it has to be balanced. I'm not your safety net anymore. We understand, my mom whispered. Do you? I leaned forward. Because understanding in theory is different than understanding in practice. If we do this, if we try to rebuild, it means family dinners where I'm included in decisions. It means my birthday actually gets celebrated. It means if money is tight, we all sacrifice equally. Not just me. Yes, my dad said firmly. All of that. Yes. I sat back, considering. I need time, I said. I'm not saying no. But I'm not saying yes yet either. You hurt me. Deeply. 4 years. That doesn't heal in one coffee meeting. Whatever you need, my mom said. We talked for another hour. It wasn't perfect. Old habits crept in, defensive explanations emerged, but it was a start. When I left, I drove back to my apartment. My small, perfectly arranged, completely mine apartment. I sat on my sectional, the one they'd taken for granted, the one I'd reclaimed, and I smiled. Not because everything was fixed, but because for the first time in my entire life, I wasn't the extra in my own story. I was the main character, and I was finally writing my own ending.